So right here we have a quadratic inequality, and we need to graph it. What you do is pretend it's like it's a regular parabola, like an equal sign. So you want to find what? What do you want to find first? Vertex. So we want to find the vertex. How do you find the vertex? X equals negative b over 2a. So if we work this out and we plug in negative b, which is going to be negative 6 over 2 times a over 2 times 1. So we're going to get negative 6 over 2, and that's negative 3. So x equals negative 3. That's the x value of your vertex. So what I want to do is zoom in and put the x value of my vertex right in there, negative 3. Now I still need my y value of my vertex. How do I do that? Plug in, right? Plug in the negative 3 and work it out. So plugging it in. So I'm plugging in the negative 3 into the equation. Notice that I replaced the x's with parentheses, and I'm putting in the negative 3 right in there. And if we think about this, we have negative 3 squared, that's 9. And then 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. So what I really have is positive 9 minus 18 plus 3. So that's really a negative 9 plus 3, which means my y value is negative 6. So my vertex is negative 3, negative 6. So that's the most important point. Let's go to that point on the graph. Negative 3, negative 6. And here we go. Let me go with the pointer, negative 3, negative 6. So we go negative 1, 2, 3, and negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So right there is where I need to put my dot. Did I do that right? Yeah, okay. So right through that value, and let me zoom in a little, that's negative 3, negative 6. Right through that value, negative 3, negative 6, there's an axis of symmetry, okay? So let me draw my axis of symmetry. I'm going to draw it in blue. You zoom out a little more, draw my axis of symmetry right through there. Okay, so what do I need? I need more points. So at this point, I could either use my pattern of A, which is if your A equals 1, you could use a pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, okay? Or you could also make an XY table and plug in values for X, pull out values for Y. Because the A value is 1, I'm going to use the pattern. So I'm going to go 1 over 1 up, and that's going to be my new point right there. And then I'm going to go 2 over 1, 2, and go 4 up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to put my next dot right there. And then 3, 9, if you want to do it, go for it. 3, 9. If you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's my other dot right there. And just mirror them over to the other side of the axis of symmetry. You get that point right there, this point right here, and this one that's 3 units away right there. Now, one important thing to do before even drawing your parabola is this going to be a solid parabola or is it going to be a dotted parabola? Solid, because it has a solid line underneath it. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw my solid parabola, going right through those points. And I guess if you have time and an eraser, you could erase like the other dots, but I'm just going to leave it like that right now. But the point is, we have our parabola. Now we need a shade. We're either going to shade on the inside of this parabola or on the outside of this parabola. And what I'm going to do is test a point, any point on this graph. So I could test points that are inside the parabola or that are on the outside of the parabola. I'm going to test the point 0, 0, which is clearly on the outside of the parabola, right? 0, 0 is right here. It's really close to the parabola, but it's definitely on the outside. So if I test the point 0, 0, let's think about this. Plug in a 0 for X and a 0 for Y. Here's an X, there's an X, there's a Y. Plug in a 0 in all those spots, and you're going to end up with 0 is less than or equal to, and let's think about this, 6 times 0 and 0 squared, that's just going to be 0 plus 0, and then plus 3, that means you're going to get a 3 on this side. So is 0 less than 3? Yes. So it does work. So that means that the 0, 0 does work. It is a solution. That means that all my solutions are going to be on the outside of the parabola, not on the inside. So because 0, 0 works, I'm going to shade in everything that's on the outside of the parabola. Shade in everything on the outside of the parabola, not on the inside of the parabola. ¿Sí me entienden? Yes. All right. So if we take a look at a different problem, let's go with something. Let's go with this one right here. This one's in vertex form. So the vertex is really easy. What is the vertex? -2, -3. Okay, so if we go to -2 and -1, 2, 3, we're going to be right there. And that is my vertex. My axis of symmetry is going right through that vertex value. If I want to get more points, I could use a table of values or an XY table, or I could also use the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. Since I use the pattern on the other one, I'm not going to use the pattern on this one. I'm actually going to plug in values. What would be a nice number to plug in right here? 0 would be great. So if I plug in 0, I'm going to end up with a 0 inside the parenthesis plus 2 squared minus 3. So I really have a 2 squared because 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 squared, that's 4. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So when I plug in a 0, I get out a 1. Does that make sense? Yes. So when I plug in a 0, I get out a 1. And you know what? I could plug in another value like 1, and it'll give me a point somewhere up here. Or I could plug in -1, and it'll give me a point somewhere right here. But the bottom line is, guys, I already have an idea of my parabola. Map that over to the other side. And this is going to be, again, a solid parabola. So I'm just going to do a solid line going through those points. I know it's crooked. I apologize. What really matters here is the shading, right? The parabola is solid. That's great. If we didn't have the or equal to, if it was just less than with no solid line underneath, it would be a dotted parabola. But because there's a solid line, it's a solid parabola. Okay? What else could I say? I need to shade either the inside of the parabola or the outside of the parabola. I need to test the point. All right? Now, 0, 0 is a great point to test, but I'm not sure. I mean, it looks like 0, 0 is on the outside. But if you're confused about that, don't use 0, 0. Let's use a point that's clearly either on the inside or clearly on the outside.
2, 0.
So you want to go with 2, 0, somebody said? 1, 0, 5, 0, 10, 0, whatever. You could go, how about this? Let's go extreme. 10, 0. It's way over here, right? 10 is x. So if you go and 10 for x, 0 for y. If you plug in your 10 for x, you're going to end up with 10 instead of x plus 2 squared minus 3. And you're going to have the inequality with the y right here. And the y is 0 in this case because 10 and 0. So 0 right here, 10 right there. Work it out. You're going to get 12 squared. That's 144 minus 3. Is it greater than or equal to 0? Yes, it is. So what do we know? That this point is a solution. That means that all the solutions are on the outside of the parabola. So you shade in all the outside of the parabola. Sometimes you'll be shading on the inside. Sometimes you'll be shading the outside. I hope that helps.